Adventure Ho Illumineers, and welcome back to another episode of the DuckTale Dads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mac, joined by just Konnor, Scrooge McDuck, this week. Ryan and his wife are on a family trip this week, so they won't be here recording with us. And Nathaniel is getting into his high school soccer coaching shenanigans, and that all of that has started here locally in Minnesota, and he's being heavily involved in his soccer coaching, as we have expressed about this time last year. So he's taken another night off here just to catch up with all the busyness that's going on with his summer schedule. So this week it's just us two, but as always, whenever it's two of us, we always seem to find a way to just make it work and continue to talk for an hour about Lorcana, and this tonight will be no different. So welcome, Konnor. It's glad to have you. How is the week going? I'm just going to jump right into what's new in your world.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what's new in your world, because you've had a lot of non-Lorcana craziness.
That is true. That is true. And it just, yeah, it's funny that, two of the dads are busy, and, us having our gaggle of children are willing and able to come into to the podcast tonight. So I know it's always nice to have some rotation if you have some trips and some busyness. So that's always fun to be able to rely on us, on your friends. But yeah, so for what's new in my world, definitely starting with the non-Lorcana base. So unfortunately, okay, to talk about Lorcana, of course, I missed out on pre-release this past weekend because I took my dad to the bronze place match, the third place, fourth place match of the World Cup in Miami. And it was mind blowing. I don't know if any of our listeners follow soccer or saw any of the highlights or anything, but it was France versus England, which is already a historic, I think it's number 2 versus number 4 in the world. And it is unbelievable. So very, very high talent, high skilled teams. And it was 6-4 to England. And
That's
yes,
unheard of.
that is a scoreline for the soccer game that I went to. 6-4. Everyone complains about 0-0 all the time, but there was 10 goals. So it's one of the highest scoring matches in the last 50 years of the World Cup. And it was unbelievable. I love France, and I support a majority of the English players. And so I was just there for a good time. And wow, did they deliver. Genuinely one of the greatest sporting experiences of my lifetime, and most likely will be for the rest of my life. I don't know if I will ever be able to top that. And so unless I'm seeing like Rory McIlroy hole out on a over extra hole or playoff round or anything. But either way, that was very fun. So flew out, short trip, hung out with my dad, and we drove up to Miami and had a great time. Came back down, chatted with my rest of my family out in Florida, and be able to flew back Sunday. And yeah, it was just like that. It's crazy busy weekend. But overall, I mean, one of the once in a lifetime opportunities. So I'm very, very happy that it happened. And yeah, it did cost an arm and a leg, but again, it's probably never going to ever happen again. And they definitely paid off with the result, the 6-4 showing. So, but from a Lorcana standpoint, I definitely couldn't go pre-release weekend without having somebody pick up some products. So I definitely had some help for some people picking up some things when I was gone. And yeah, things are looking pretty good. I've had some pretty good luck recently, and I will I guess we could talk about that a little bit more. I know we're going to be talking about some polls and some different events later on, but I'll give you a little hint. It was shiny. It was very, very shiny. So
there you go.
Yes,
good tease. We'll get back to that in a couple of minutes, but I just want to touch base on kind of your World Cup experience. I know this is kind of the Lorcana podcast about dads, but I think it's important for people to realize, like, we have other interests, and we talk about all the time, like, all 4 of us have grown up in competitive sports. That's how we got to learn about, like, teamwork and competition and how to not only win, but I think more importantly at times, like, lose with grace, and then trying to work yourself back up to get better when you lose. And a lot of that is there are similarities from traditional sports and TCGs, and it's kind of crazy. I'm proud and happy for you, because I know how much soccer means to you, and I am just thankful that you got an amazing high scoring game. Like 6-4 is unheard of. Two of the best teams in the world, two of the most historical teams ever in soccer. So like, I don't know, you haven't really talked about like your upbringing into soccer, like, and that's kind of, again, like, how is your upbringing to soccer kind of, how do you maybe apply that to even a simple TCG game like Lorcana? Like, where are the similarities there
Oh,
for you?
absolutely. No, it's definitely there's definitely some strong correlation. That's a good question. So I started at a really young age. Genuinely, it's like whenever I could start to walk, and my dad handed me a golf club and also put a soccer ball at my feet. And so he had played soccer growing up, and ultimately my sister and I were just playing recreationally, and we started having a lot of fun. And my dad was the coach, and he started enjoying it. And my this is for contextual purposes. My father is very much a person who will dive into a new topic or a new like area of education if he doesn't have any background, and simply just read everything possible and learn how to do it to the best of his ability. The perfection aspect, which is definitely how I've been raised. I'm a huge perfectionist, and that's predominantly where it comes from. But he got really deep into coaching and started getting better, and we started getting better and better, and then we started trying out for competitive teams. And the competitive level is a complete change of pace, right? Because it became more of a everyone on the field, both opposition and your own team, were the best of the best, and they were hyper competitive. And so not only does your games change, the dynamic, and your practices change, and your overall mentality changes. And so you have to be able to face adversity throughout the league and through tournaments, and understand that like the ebbs and flows of the game are going to just sway in your favor and sway against you. And I mean, correlating it to the World Cup game that I'd gone to, England went up 4-0 in the first half, and France in at halftime must have done some sort of mental turnaround, whether it was a motivational speech or some reflection, and they came back out and they brought it to them, scored two goals right away, had a third. It went up 5-3, then they scored another one to make it 5-4, and that's when England ran away with 6-4. But they came back out swinging. They very well could have just given up. And it correlates a lot to how I pursue Lorcana, because I take my adversities and my losses, though very painfully and very stubbornly. I'm not. I'm really working hard on my graceful losing. I don't like losing at all, but I will definitely try and be nice about it. I'm not going to be nasty over a card game, but I take those losses. I try and learn from them. And then, so over the last 2 years that I've been playing this game, things have gotten better, and I've gotten better at the game, and I've learned how to not go full tilt, right? When you're at 6 ink and you need an inkable card, and you only have four uninkables in your entire deck, but you top deck an uninkable, and you're like, okay, cool. You have to think on
Yeah,
you have
that
to think you
hurts.
have to think on your feet. And so the ability to be able to focus through the adversity, and welcome the challenge, uh, is hugely related to the competitive soccer that I had growing up. And so um, I will oh gosh, one of the biggest things I can say from Lorcana's standpoint is I I want to be the loser, which sounds really weird. I hate losing, but I want to be the loser in person so that I can say, wow, that is incredible. What could I do to improve? Right? Every loss is a learning opportunity. And so I was just telling Mac off camera that I've been playing online a little bit, and I've been trying different decks, and I lost five in a row. And I was just I was like, cool, all right, looks like Attack of the Vine just isn't my set. And then made some switches, tried a deck I'm more familiar with, and sure enough, got things to turn around. And that's just persistence and being able to focus through the adversity. So I think that's hugely related to the upbringing, and I mean, as you can attest to, competitive sports, it's a grind at times, and it can be heartbreaking. And so it is definitely preparing you for some very high highs and very low lows.
Yeah, that's a good point. The thing that I think would resonate with maybe some TCG players and everything that you just said was like, don't tilt, you know.
Yeah.
That's very much a common term that we hear amongst the community, or just plain in general. Like if something like really bad happens to you, or really something unfortunate happens to you in one of your games, and like you can feel like kind of like your blood pressure rising, your blood boiling, and you can just feel like
Sweaty.
the adrenaline rushing. It's more so, yeah, it's more so like don't tilt, just do what you can to relax. And I think you provided that perfect metaphor with the World Cup game you experienced, right? You're down 4-0, don't tilt, see what you can do, and then you never know what can happen. You know, it's kind of like in sports terms, you hear it like until the clock hits 0, you just keep going. In this case, until your opponent hits 20 lore, you just have to keep going, right?
You have to keep going.
There's a lot of metaphors that can be carried on from even traditional sports when you might not think there are a lot of things to compare to. So
absolutely
cool. Once in a lifetime experience. Glad you were able to do it. Very well worth it. So perfect opportunity for you. I realized too, like being a dad and like doing, you know, raising kids, being a husband, you know, taking care of a house, doing those things that are just like truly once in a lifetime opportunities. You got to take advantage of it when you can, because there aren't many of those opportunities.
No.
And I'm glad you were able to do it. But stepping into, I guess, what's new in my world, I was able to do pre-release, and it went pretty well. We'll go through the recap in a little bit later in this episode here, but I had a blast. Pre-release is always fun. Sealed is such a cool format, and I've continued to be, you know, like amazed and feel like Ravensburger is truly working on what the community wanted, I don't know, a year ago, and a lot of that was, let's make limited formats more fun, you know? And I think they're doing a really good job, they being Ravensburger, on blending sets to include cards that are both really good in a limited style and cards that are just really, really good in core, right? So I would say over the course of probably the last 3 sets, maybe even 4, they've really started to hit the nail on the head when it comes to that. And I think Attack of the Vine is just another instance of that. So I continue to be amazed, and it makes me want to continue to do more limited, not only sealed, but something like draft. Or I know you play a fair bit more of Pack Rush than I do, but like things of like Pack Rush, I just get excited about doing things like that. And I think that's the biggest what's new in my world is like, let's continue Ravensburger, these sealed events, these pre-release events, these kits. Holy cow, these kits are, I think, like a home run. These kits are so cool to be a part of, like a pre-release style weekend, like a dedicated kit for that. So if you want one person's feedback, if you're listening to this, Ravensburger, keep it going, because the last 2 sets have been amazing. Non-Lorcana related. Took advantage of some nice weather. Went swimming with the kids over the weekends. So I had a nice party with some family and some friends with that. We continue to kind of coast through our volleyball league. We being me and my wife. That's always a blast over the course of the spring, summer, and fall months. But the biggest thing is continuing to work through the daily grind of home improvement projects. I got my garden in a very nice state that isn't necessarily about the vegetables, although those are starting to bloom, which is a very nice positive. But we were battling some rabbits, so we put together a garden fence around our garden, and we finished the last kind of steps of that over this past weekend, so that was really nice. And then lastly, I got to golf. I'm a huge golfer, so talking about traditional sports, we were talking about the team side of things, but I know you enjoy golf too. Golf is something that I grew up with since I was 3 or 4 years old, and I was finally able to get out with my brother and my dad. So it's always a really good time whenever I'm able to get out to golf. And I think golf is just, whether you're a golfer or not, to me, it's a perfect metaphor of life because you can hit some bad shots, you can hit some good shots, and that's kind of what the ebbs and flows of life feels like, kind of constrained in a 4-hour time period. So a lot going on with me, both Lorcana and Lorcana related, and overall a very, very good weekend for me. So anything else you want to share on what's new in your world, or you want to get into some what's happening for that little subtle tease that you proposed
yes.
about 10 minutes ago. What happened? How are you able to get product, Konnor?
Oh, wow. It's a great question. So for anyone who needs a good friend, DuckTale Dad Mac is always going to be there for you. He was able to pick up some product, and when I got back from my flight, I had swung by their house and I asked his lovely wife, I said, which box should I take? And I held them out and she goes, that one in the middle. I was like, great, sounds perfect. I take the box, I go home, and I was like, I'll open a couple packs before I go to bed. And on the fourth pack, I ripped the Peter Pan Tinkerbell tag team Enchanted.
It's so beautiful.
So beautiful. And I don't know if I've shared some of this on the previous episodes, well, when I was a guest before I was officially part of the team, but I've had a very lucky string of packs. I would say that I opened maybe 10 or 12 Wilds Unknown packs from like various, whether it's like I picked up a trove or I found some hangers at Target, and I pulled two enchanteds. I pulled the Isabella Madrigal and the Dunback tapestry. Yeah, tapestry. And so now, having only opened four packs, pulling the tag team, I'm very much above the statistical average. But I immediately texted Mac and his wife saying, wow, thank you so much. I appreciate you for choosing this box. This is great. I owe you so much. So it was incredible. And again, when I because they added the epics, right? It's always a little squirrely when it comes to like, what logo is this? Like, oh, that's shiny. And I pulled it up and it just didn't hit. Like, I just froze, mouth open. I'm alone and like opening these packs, mouth open, just gaped. It was frozen. I was like, what? Like, it was the fourth pack. I had no expectations about anything. It was the fourth pack. Oh man, blew my mind. And again, immediately, penny sleeve, top loader, picture, text Mac. So it was, oh man, it was oh, crazy, crazy, crazy.
I gotta I gotta tell you my side of things when you texted me. So you came over, and mind you, this was after you got home from your World Cup flight. You
Yep.
stopped by my house to pick up your box, and you were opening your packs at like 11 at
Oh
night,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So
I had to eat dinner and I was still awake. I was like, why not?
yeah, why not, right? So, kind of a little bit of background. The day before was when I ultimately bought a case, and so we kind of worked together, and Konnor and I worked together, like how many boxes of each we're gonna get, right? And so, with that, I got the case, and me and my wife opened up one of the boxes the day before, and we had some pretty good hits. We had a probably 7 legendaries. One of them was foil, 2 epics, some very playable cards. Like, I had a good box when it comes to like playable value, but I didn't pull the Enchanted. And my wife always likes to be the one to. I always ask her to pick the box. It's the way she gets involved, and she loves opening packs. That's how she's a part of the Lorcana family, right? Is opening packs. So I gave her out of the 4 boxes. She picked it. But the one, I texted you this today, and this is, I don't know if it's just jealousy or whatever, envy, but I'm so happy for you at the same time. The box that I wanted to open was ultimately the box that you took. And I was just like, oh, dang it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
we all know that like my pack opening luck has just been absolute buns lately. So like I was like, I don't care what box you pick. Just pick it. We'll open it. We're going to have a good time. We made a little date night out of it. But yeah, then you grabbed the box and you picked it up. And so as I'm going for bed, I think I shut off my nightstand light. And it was 2 minutes later, I heard the buzz on my nightstand. Like, that's a text message buzz. And immediately my head went to, Konnor just texted me. I just know it because after you left my house, I was like, you were kind of on the fence if you were going to pull something, and I was like, it was about that time where I would have thought you would have been pulling or opening packs if you were going to. So I had this weird sixth sense, like that's Konnor. He texted me. So I was like, all right, turning on the light again, and I opened the text message, and I turned to my wife and was like, Konnor pulled the Enchanted out of the box. So she got to look at it too. She congratulates you as well.
Yeah,
It was really cool. And again, to my first comment, like, what? Just overall, what an amazing looking card. Not only this one, but like the Enchanted set in general. Like the way the colors blend between the tag teams, especially the Ruby and Amethyst with the Peter Pan and Tinkerbell.
That was seamless.
Yeah, are the foils different this set? Did you get a sense of that, or does it kind of feel like the same kind of heat-treated foiling as it has been the last couple sets?
It did seem a little bit different, but then again, it could just be the recency bias. But again, looking at the previous Enchanteds, like in how I was like, I opened up 2 of them from last set, which is like again statistically way above average for how many packs I opened. But it still looked very similar when it comes to like how shiny and how clean and how the artwork was very well blended together. And so like I would have to say they were like maybe something different slightly, but I mean speaking of different like styles and cards and processes, I don't know if it was just my box, but it does seem like the card quality has changed. Like it almost felt like a different matte finish, weirdly enough. But the cards were better. Like I didn't have too many like I don't think I had any misprint or like miscut or things that were crazy. Whereas last set or 2 sets ago, I think was just really wonky. But
yeah, there was a set, or it was either Winterspell or Whispers, where like it was either the miscuts or the foiling on the Enchanteds were a little weird that caused them to warp. But yeah, I would agree. Like they've improved that over the course of Wilds Unknown, and at least for that first look, Attack of the Vine, in terms of card quality.
I was very impressed. Very impressed.
But the artwork style, I think, is what's catching my eye. It's
stunning.
just, like I said, the blend of the colors, and maybe it's just as simple as like there are more colors to the page, just due to the most of, if not all of, the tag teams having an Enchanted. So I think that's really cool. So another job well done on Ravensburger's part. But yeah, that's so amazing. But it turns out, like I'm looking at our messages in our friend group, you weren't the only one that pulled something.
No.
Of course, the man himself, the luckiest pack opener that we know, Ryan, has pulled an Enchanted as well. And we joke about like how his wife and his daughter have like the best pack opening luck ever. He texted our group saying, this was the second pack my daughter opened, and it was out of the 2 packs that his daughter had opened, she had opened 2 legendaries and an Enchanted, and the Enchanted was the Mickey and Minnie. So I know that's something that you are play testing. Like, what are your thoughts? What were your thoughts when you saw Ryan's message come to the group?
It didn't even faze me anymore. I was just like, yep, that's just it. That's again, Ryan's family pulls another Enchanted. That's just to be expected now. I don't even like it's granted. I didn't remember, or I didn't recall like what the Mickey and Minnie Enchanted looked like. So when I saw it like after the whole like again, I was able to say like, oh wow, that's like really pretty. Like that is so nice. And then it got me curious of like what like I need to look at the other Enchanteds again. And so like it was again just impressive how beautiful they are. But my first instinct was just to go, okay,
sigh, just another one. But congratulations again, Ryan. I know, if there's one of us, at least one of us out of the the 4 DuckTale Dads, we have a 5th that we play with a lot. Like, at least one of us continues to have the hot hands, and hopefully you continue as well, Konnor.
I'm on a streak.
Because if I would gladly give up my dry streak to at least have the group as a whole pull a good number and a high percentage, relatively speaking, of Enchanted cards for how little or maybe how much, depending on which way you look at it, like sealed product we open as a group. We got some pretty good rates. So overall, it was fun. So, but we did want to have a conversation. We talked about this before we started recording. Was like how what did you do with it? Are you comfortable sharing?
Yeah.
And maybe like how do you manage when you do pull a big hit? Because you've pulled a lot recently. How have you managed these hits? Not only this Peter Pan, but maybe the last three Enchanteds that you've pulled,
Yeah,
and how that helps you with your Lorcana journey.
absolutely. And so, uh, as you know, any parent would recognize, kids are expensive, and owning a home is expensive, and pets, and just it's a lot. And so, if you have disposable income to to buy some of these enchanteds and kind of hold on to them for a collection purpose, great. I love that. For my situation, you know, if it's an enchanted that's maybe like 40 or 50 bucks, like yeah, maybe I'll hold on to it for a little bit, see what happens with the economy of it, the supply and demand. Once the set's over and people aren't really opening that set anymore, does the value go up a little bit or does it go down? But in this situation, because it was so early in the set, when I had initially checked the price of the Tinkerbell tag team, it was like $350. I was like, whoa, that's like one of the most, if not, I'm pretty sure the most expensive card I've ever pulled. And I immediately thought, one, if I were to sell this, it covers the price of the box, covers any future trove if I get one, and or covers any events if I were to go to like League or if I was going
Yeah,
to go
set champ
to
fees. You're right.
set
It
champ
like covers your
fees. It
fees for
immediately
like a
covers it.
good couple months.
Absolutely. And especially again, like I mentioned, being I have two little kids and knowing that I can't just go out and spend a bunch of money if I want to. Uh, I knew that I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to need to sell this. And so even just between the night I opened it and the morning after, it dipped a little bit to like 315, 300. I was like, okay, maybe I'll post it a little bit in the Discord. I had listed on TCG Player, and ultimately I was able to work out a cash deal with somebody local in Minnesota for $235, which seems like, whoa, that's a huge cut from the normal price tag. Well, it was cash in person, which takes out any seller's fees, shipping costs, anything that would be associated with like insurance, anything over like $100, I'd probably want to insure that, which is actually not as expensive as I thought. But overall, I mean, TCG Player or eBay takes a percentage of the sale. So typically people like to say 85% or 80%, 90% of TCG Player prices. And so 85% of that price when I sold it, which again, it did continue to go down a little bit, it was like 275. 85% of 275 was roughly 235. And so we were able to work out a really good deal. I met him in person, super, super nice guy. Um, and then I felt really bad because the price continued to drop. And there was one that's like 215. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like crazy drop. But then it went right back up, and now it's at like 280. Last time I checked, 285. And so it's one of those things where like, did I sell it at the maximum price of 350 or 400 or whatnot when it first came out? No. I was able to get a really, really nice chunk of change from it. And I was able to then quote unquote justify, but at least cover the cost of the box as well as any future events, knowing that, you know what, Lorcana's it's not super, super cheap. It's not like crazy expensive. However, we can't ignore the costs. And so, coming from someone who's operating on a budget, I said, let's just go ahead and sell it. If things are different later on down the road, maybe I'll buy it back so I can have it for my collection. But very rarely do I keep really many enchanteds, especially if they're selling for a higher value.
Do you? That's a good point. Like you brought up a good question here. Do you have any enchanteds? Do you have much of a collection? Are you that type of person? And if so, like what do you like absolutely want to
Yeah.
hold on to, or what's in your collection that's like kind of like no, at least for right now, it's an absolute no.
Absolutely. I mean, again, oh gosh, this is so. For people who don't know, I work in finance. I run a small financial planning business myself, and so numbers and efficiency, it's pretty important to me. And so there's times where like I've sold an enchanted for $90, and then like 2 to 3 months later, I see that it's selling for like 175. It's like, wow, okay, that kind of hurts. However, there's opportunity cost, and you have to hold it. You have to know when you sell it. It's very much like trying to catch a falling knife, right? There's a good chance that you're going to cut yourself, but there's also it's not impossible to grab it by the handle and have it be perfectly timed, right? So there's often times where you're not selling it for the most value. But for me, I don't have much. What I like to do is I'll keep the set champs cards, the promos the set champ enchanted that I get. If I have multiple, I'll think about selling one if they're a decent price. Otherwise, I'll still hold on to them. I like to keep my epics, and uh, I have currently, besides like the set champs promos, I did hold on to the Woody because Woody immediately started going really, really down. But then now that set champs are done, it has come back up, and so that one I might sell off just because it is an expensive card. But the other two enchanters that I have are the Isabella Madrigal and the tapestry. And so again, I those it's a little bit uncharacteristic for me to hold on to those, but they were also around like $60. I haven't checked recently, so they very well could be right back down to $60. But they had started showing a trend that they were going up, so I was thinking maybe I'll sell them a little bit later. But the one thing that I have given myself is my collection of Goofy cards. I love Goofy. He was my favorite growing up. I had a driver for golf head cover of Goofy, and I still have it. It's gosh. So I have all foil Goofies. So if any foil Goofy or a promo Goofy or promo, I've tried to collect as much as I can. There are some that I'm missing. So small plug, if you have any that are kind of rare, or the Enchanted Whispers Goofy, please hit me up. But I will collect those, and that's more of a sentimental one. I have a fair amount. I have the Super Goof Enchanted from set four. So that's, I guess, one of the enchanters that I have that I didn't plan on selling or keep. I'm planning on
So you
keeping.
do have that
I
one.
do have that one. Yeah, I
Okay.
bought that one actually, like way before Infinity DLC started, and I was hoping that I was able to get it for a good price. And I guess we can do it moderately live here, but if I'm not mistaken, I got mine for like maybe just a little under $40, which I feel like is a steal for the playability of it. But let's see here. Super Goof, if we're looking at the Enchanted, is currently at 65. So like I got it for, a decent price in comparison to what it would be, but again, it's nothing crazy. But it's that's something that even if it's not crazy expensive, but I'm still planning on holding it just because I love Goofy. And so anytime I get a foil Goofy or an epic Goofy, I'll slot them in and call it good and hold that for that's my collection. The epics, the Goofies, and then the set chance promos. But otherwise, anything worth more than like $100 that I pull is being sold and put right back into the degenerate pack opening fund. So unless it is a special collection, I'll kind of just rotate them out.
I have to share this hot off the press. This is literally just came into our friend Discord,
Uh-oh.
and it's very relevant. Ryan sent another message to our Discord, and he just said, last box of our pre-release purchases, he's pulled another
Oh my
Enchanted. He pulled the
gosh.
Genie and Aladdin. Holy cow, Ryan. Please
Are
have
you
your family
kidding
choose
me?
any sealed product that I ever open again, because I want a little taste of the
Wow.
Enchanted love.
Three
That
epics
is,
too.
yeah, speaking of that, that is like, that might be one of my favorite Enchanteds of the set. And no, actually yours, the one that you pulled, and then this one. These ones
Beautiful.
are so cool. So congratulations,
Wow.
Ryan. This I'm literally reading your message live
That is
in the middle of
incredible.
this recording.
I hate it, but I love
Um,
it.
that yeah, that's wild. Congratulations, Ryan, again. So yes, the streak continues. But back on topic here, I think one thing that I've learned, because and you know this about me, like when I first got into the game, when we were like really bad, remember those days?
Oh yeah.
Like I very much went in as like the collector mindset, and I know I've talked about that before. Like I wanted to collect these cards. I came, and I will admit this, like I came from like, wow, Pokemon's doing really good. Lorcana's going to be the next Pokemon thing. Like this is something to invest in, right? And I have since stepped away from that because not only has my love of playing the game grown, I just realized like, what's the purpose? You know, like
Yeah.
what ultimately, like what's your goal in this game? That's the question I kept asking myself. And if there's any sort of like obviously the disclosure, like we're not trying to give financial advice, but what we want to share like our experience, because we do have to balance a lot when it comes to like raising a family and how we deal with the game, because this can be a very expensive game. So with that in mind, like ultimately my goal was like what are the enchanteds of my collection that are like important to me and I want to like continue to have in my life that I can enjoy for years to come, however long Lorcana can last, right? And ultimately it's just like I have a Maui from set 1 and I have a Simba from set 1. And like Lion King was my movie growing up. Like that was my favorite movie. So like when I saw the set 1 Enchanted when we first got into the game, that was where like I need to get my hands on it, and that's a card where it'll take a lot for me to ever part with that card. And then Maui, like Maui, not only do I enjoy Moana, right? And it's a very good movie. My wife loves that movie, but I think that one stems from more the fact like the first deck that I got really good at was Ruby Sapphire, and that was a staple in the Ruby Sapphire deck. And like I could always lean and like have that Maui as a core memory for me, like really getting into the game with a deck that I like fell in love with, and ultimately that was the deck that I finally got like decent at this game was mastering that deck. So ultimately I think that this stems from the idea of like what's your goal in this, not only like in collecting or keeping enchanteds, but do you not care about enchanteds? Do you just care about like funding your kind of Lorcana bank, so to speak? So then ultimately, whenever you pull an enchanted, you sell it right away so then you can fill up your bank. I know some people do that. Or as in my case, do you just keep the ones that you really want and then focus on like the singles route and then once in a while opening sealed? And this happens to be our once in a while. We haven't gotten a box or a sealed box in a long time. We being me and you, Konnor, we don't get much sealed, right? We tend to go the singles route, but the reason I got some sealed product in this run is like it's Monsters Inc. And like my wife, her favorite character, or easily in her top 5 characters of all of Disney and Pixar movies, is Boo from Monsters Inc. So when she found out those were a couple cards there, she was like, and you know, it kind of paid off. One of the epics I pulled was the epic Boo in the box that I opened. So once we opened that, she looked at it and she was like absolutely amazed with how like not only the card looks, but it brought her back to like some childhood memories of that movie, right? And then, but from like some people are a financial side, and the one thing that I want to share that I think may be helpful for our listeners is we DuckTale Dads, like we're never going to overspend on this game. Like our priority has always been our family, taking care of our family, taking care of our house, you know, taking care of those core important things. And this is just extra. So like if we happen to have what we call fun money that we're able to spend on this, that goes in that extra pile. It doesn't go in our primary pile. And the way that I look at it, and maybe this is helpful for others, is like if I were to have saved $200 for Lorcana, let's say, if I were to lose that money, like walking on the road, and that money fell out of my pocket, would my life change in any way? Or would I feel like super depressed if I had lost that money and I wasn't able to spend it on Lorcana and or whatever that value is for you? Like, and ultimately, whatever that number comes up to me, like it's no. Like if I were to like drop that money and not see it ever again, and I can't spend it on Lorcana, will I still be the same guy and still find enjoyment in this game? Yes, I will. Right. So it's like, for me, it's understanding that limit. So whatever, but ultimately, like, what is your goal? Is it strictly financial? Is it strictly collector? Is it to get the pawn off the Enchanteds to get your play sets of something else? Is it to keep the Enchanteds because you just like the way they look, but how much you're willing to have that bucket? I think that's ultimately the way I try and seek and move through this Lorcana journey, is to have that continuous mindset that I have my primary things, this is the fun things, and the fun things, if this money were to disappear, would my life change? And if that answer is no, then I think I'm doing okay. So any last minute kind of things, that tips and tricks that you have when it comes to whether you get a big hit or kind of navigating something like this, something as cool as pulling an Enchanted?
Yeah, I mean, it's like again, it's I don't want it to sound as if we are saying it's distasteful to collect or like keep the enchantments or anything. By all means, like the artwork is beautiful, and there's appreciation for various TCGs, the shiny cardboard as it is, and there are values and there are sentiments. However, trying to look at it as like this is an investment rather than like this is a game that we're playing is it's a fine line, right? And again, like we're not giving any financial advice, and we don't want to be too much of a downers. We don't want the DuckTale Dad podcast to be sponsored by Delilah, where we're just talking about our emotions and our finances. But again, when it comes to like a big poll, to me, it's immediately if it's anything above like $75 to $100, I most likely won't keep it. And that's something that I've decided within myself and talked to my wife about a little bit as well. Just saying like, hey, here's my limit, here's my threshold. If it's really special, if it's like a goofy enchanted, I'll probably keep it. I'll probably hold on to it. Um, However, like Max said, it goes right back into funding my Lorcana bucket. And what I have recognized is that it's the statistics are just they're just that the numbers don't lie. You have to open a fair amount to have it be guaranteed. However, there is no guarantee. We've seen people in the Minnesota community post that they bought a case, 4 boxes, and did not hit an enchanted. And so it's like that could happen. And so we don't
Our
want
last case
to.
as a group, we didn't pull an Enchanted.
Yeah. And so it's just
From Whispers. That
yeah.
was the last time we pulled sealed product as a group, and our case did not have an Enchanted.
Yep.
As an example to your point here.
Absolutely. And so we got to be careful when it comes to, just like pull, like spending money to just pull pack. I mean, open packs and open packs and open packs to get these enchanteds. Because, again, you might not get something that's super, super expensive but you might not get any. And so again, it's important to have those limitations within yourself because pack opening is fun. However, I've found over the course of the last couple of sets that I miss playing. I want to be in person playing with the community, with friends, with anyone that wants to play. And so I've stopped buying as much sealed product so that I can put that money towards like league nights and league play or set champs and things and have it be a little bit more affordable. And so we can just buy singles because again, there are countless of times where I could probably buy 2 or 3 boxes and not get a playset of the legendary I need. When in reality, I could just go spend like 12 to $15 on TCG and have the playset right there. And so it's trying to define what those priorities are for you. So I think if I have to give out one tip, it's define that value for yourself. If finances are tight or money is tight, define that value. Give yourself your 1 or 2 exceptions, such as myself for Goofy, maybe Moana or Lion King for Mac here. But give yourself those definitions and say like, hey, if I pull something more than $100, I'll sell it. If I pull something more than $100 that's Goofy, maybe I'll keep it. And so just give yourself those rules, and that's hard to follow, especially if it's just yourself. You have to be your own advocate there, but it's it's something that the value of the game is not only monetary, but it's kind of a social emotional thing too. So not trying to get too deep into the big feels, but it's some people find the value in just getting together. Some people find the value in collecting and having something to show for what you've done over the last 2 to 3 years. And so, again, however you choose to play Lorcana, it's always best to have some sort of guidelines for yourself. And that is, there's no right or wrong way to do this. You can collect all the enchantments of every set. You can get play sets of enchantments. That is completely fine. Like again, more power to you. But having those limitations within yourself to know, like, hey, maybe I'll take a set off from buying product, or maybe I'll go more league nights or events and pre like sealed limited formats. Because at first I didn't really think, I was like, oh, is that important? Back in like set 5 or 6, and then I started going to more of them, and it is so much fun. And I've recognized like you get a fair amount of product, you have fun, you meet people, you play something a little bit different, and that has been the main form of how we've gotten our product as of recent. So again, I want to stress that we're not trying to, step on our soapbox and tell you how to do things, but it is something that is just very top of mind, considering that I had just pulled it yesterday, and I was like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and sell it. It covers the price of the box and covers any expenses in the future for the next couple of months. Call it good.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think the last thing you said, it was a huge highlight that I think it's worth noting is like your goals and your values and your purpose is completely different than what anyone else wants to do. So like understanding your goal is first and foremost, like that's you, right? Like Konnor, yours is Goofy. Mine is this Simba card, and I do have another big one that I have is a first chapter box that I'm never going to open, but that's just kind of like the core memory of me being here, right? Or like, I know Nathaniel, he collects all of the playmats that he wins. Like that's like we laugh at it, but he's been on a heater playing well.
He's unbelievable.
But like he like frames them, like that's a big thing to him.
Yeah.
And I know Ryan is actually the one, like he's the one that his wife is super into the game too, and he's the one that buys a fair amount of more sealed products, but that's because his purpose is he gets to play Pack Rush with his wife. Like that's his purpose. And we have a friend in the community. He wants to have every single Enchanted for every single set. That's his purpose, right? Like so like understanding what your purpose is, I think is first and foremost what you need to establish, and then we have found that once you understand that, like enjoying the game seems that much more, sweeter, right? And it makes it more fun to be a part of the game when you have established everything that you want to get out of it, I guess is kind of what we're trying to get to. So I'm excited for you that you got your pull though. That's cool. There's your set 13 funding for set championships.
Absolutely.
So kudos to you, and maybe you'll pull another one with all the unlimited prize support that you get. But I would love to jump into kind of the set 13 because pre-release weekend just happened, right? And I know you were at the World Cup, but I was able to attend one with Ryan and Nathaniel. The three of us made it out to the same pre-release weekend. Like I alluded to in my opener, like pre-release is so fun. These pre-release kits are awesome. They get you your 6-packs, you get the fancy kind of like black bordered with the gold border promo card, and you get dice and everything. And I think this time, did they do a poster? I guess I don't remember on what they did.
I don't know. I haven't seen any of those.
But there's some like collection pamphlet basically that comes with the box. But ultimately, the three of us did pretty well. It was funny because like Ryan and I were sitting across from each other, and we were looking at our cards, and we were like, "Wow, we are going to go 0-3. Our list does not look good at all." And mind you, Konnor, I don't know if you know this, I pulled 0 legendaries in my pre-release kit.
Whoa.
So out of my 6-pack, I pulled 0, and it's from like a collection or like core constructed perspective. Like sure, some of the typically speaking legendaries are the better cards for core constructed in a general sense. But for sealed, like the rares and super rares are really important in this. So like ultimately speaking, like I had some pretty good rares and super rares. I pulled the tag team Sully and Boo, so that worked out pretty well. I had a lot of like lower cost Sullys that I could shift on, which was nice with that Sully and Boo. The big talker that you and Ryan had last week was this like Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, ironically, the one you pulled. That is really, really good in sealed. I didn't pull any of those, but I think what my MVP was the 5-cost Ruby Dash, the Shift 3 Dash evasive that it's like whenever you quest,
you draw a card,
look at,
and you can reveal
the top card, and you can play that if you want. You pay all costs. It's just the evasive interaction. It's very hard to answer them. So that's why the Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, because it makes everything evasive, was so good, and this Dash was so good because there were only like 10 cards that were even viable for trying to remove an evasive threat or something like that. So statistically very unlikely. And that did wonders for me. I went 2-1, and I will give myself a pat on back. My first round opponent, that's ultimately the round that I lost. But Ryan and I were looking at each other. We were not feeling good about our decks. And then I pull up the name Scott Markinson. world's participant from Minnesota. And I was like, ooh, that's not going to make me feel any better. So I did lose 0-2 to Scott because he's a very good player.
Historically, like, great limited sealed player, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, he's like very good at sealed and just limited in general. So I was like, okay, not feeling great. Then round 2, I pulled it out. So I was 1-1. And then my third round opponent pulled up the app. Tyler Novak, also Continental from Minnesota. So I got the 2 Minnesota Continental representatives for this upcoming Continentals tournament.
Oh,
I played them.
Gosh.
And the pat on back for me was I ultimately took down Tyler. And in fairness to him, his deck was not good. Like, he did not pull any good cards for sealed. So both of my games, I got the dash out, and he had nothing to do. He could not answer dash, and that just I just steamrolled the game from there. But knowing that, like, I could... And my games versus Scott were actually competitive. I lost like 15-20 and like 17-20. Like, they were close games. And so I'm proud of my showing against like 2 of the top 5 people in our state. And we have a very strong pool of players here in Minnesota, for those of you who aren't locals here. And so I'm proud that I was able to win. And then I celebrated with Ryan and Nathaniel. Ryan ultimately ended up going 3-0. So both of us were talking about like not having good decks, and he ultimately went 3-0. Nathaniel went 2-1. So out of the 3 of us, we as a group, what does that come out to? 7-2 in collective rounds. So we had a pretty good showing, and it was a lot of fun. We celebrated at Perkins, as our group tends to do whenever we all get together. And we were joined by the Young family in Christian and Hannah. They joined us, and they did well too. Christian went 3-0, and Hannah went 2-1. And so as a group of 5 of us, our table at Perkins was 12-3 in our sealed event. So very positive vibes. Did very well. Hannah actually baked cookies for everyone there. So she sold cookies for everyone, and they were delicious. Hannah, shout out to you. You're very good at baking cookies. So if you continue to make them, I'm sure the community will continue to buy them. But sealed is also so much fun, and this is a very, very fun set. And it was nice to see that the 3 of us that were able to make it had some success at the end of the night too.
Also, shout out to Hannah. I heard rumors that she pulled off the Posey Potato Shift line. That is incredible. Absolutely love it. And you used it to ruin Nathaniel's perfect record, which I think is just hilarious. I love it so much. So another shout out there.
You are not wrong. I'll read the text right now. This was, at this point, both Hannah and Nathaniel, this was their 2-0 match, round 3. And he said the one play that he had to share to you was that Hannah shifted Posey on the potato on curve. She sang the Red Panda Ritual song to banish his biggest person on the field. And then the next turn sang that Emerald Bounce card. She also had Mushu on the board. That's why her deck was so good. So bounced the card, quested with Mushu, got to draw her own card because, you know, cards in hand and what have you. And then the next turn, she played a second Posey. So she had 2 giant potatoes on the board. And Nathaniel talking to him after the event and with Hannah, it was just like, Nathaniel was like, what do I do here? I think he just like immediately scooped and was just like, I can't do anything. You banished my best card, and then you bounced my second best card, and when you had 2 Posies on the field. So it was like, okay, yep, I can see you win. Well played. Right. Hannah had a really good deck. So
that's about right.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was a funny strategy to talk about. We were sitting next to Krishnan and Hannah when we were building decks, and like in her first or second pack, she was like, oh, I got the potato, like the item potato. And then a couple packs later, she was like, oh, and here's my shift. Here's my win condition. So she very much knew that what she was getting into going in. And it was fun that she was able to pull it off. And even sweeter that she got to pull it off against Nathaniel, because sometimes he needs to be humbled a little bit with his with his recent success. But
Yeah.
Nathaniel, we love you. Congratulations. You still did well. And fun times all around in pre-release.
I love it. I love it. And so, I mean, again, when it comes to you were talking about like the build of your deck, saying, it wasn't super strong, or both you and Ryan were having doubts, but then ultimately did well. Did you have a strategy when it came to building your deck? What were you focusing on? Like, I know you mentioned Hannah said something about a win condition. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what your strategy was?
Yeah, for sealed in general, I think some people just go in blind, and that's exactly, just do your thing, have a good time, open packs. I like to have somewhat of success and like try and earn, like, especially if we go to a place that is pack per win, I want to take advantage of that, bring out that competitive, those competitive juices that we allude to and talk about. So I did do some homework on the set. And what I did know beforehand was what I alluded to before, is that evasives were going to be really hard to remove with this set. So like prioritize, ultimately I wanted to pull the Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, but if that wasn't the case, like what evasive could you get? And that was ultimately going to be the cornerstone of your deck. And when I saw the dash par, I was like, okay, this is the card I want to make use of every single time. The other thing was finding at least some semblance of removal. I was lucky enough to pull one of the Red Moon Ritual songs, and I didn't pull any red alerts, so I was kind of a little upset and bummed by that. But ultimately, I had some good shift targets, and I talked about the Sully. So in my head, I was like, if I could get Sully off early, especially if someone else plays an evasive threat that is going to be hard to remove, shifting Sully in order to sing together the Red Moon Ritual early on that evasive threat was ultimately kind of like my plan going in, right? So that was my top two strategies. My last one was just stats. Like at the end of the day, sealed or limited when it comes to sealed, or maybe even draft, like really strong stats matter, and trading like 1 for 2 with your opponent's board is ultimately like that's important. So I had a lot of like 4, 5, 6 cost characters with really good stats. I pulled 2 of the Sun Yoon Lee. I guess I don't remember the name. The red panda, the temporary shift 2, but it was a 5 cost inkable 5/5 body. So even if I didn't have any shift targets, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was to play that on curve on turn 5 if able, and it was just a 5/5 body. And ultimately, like that card would have to more than likely take 2 of your opponent's cards to remove that. So you get a net positive in board advantage there. So that's what I thought going in, was like, what are my evasives going to look like? What's my spot removal going to be? In my case, Red Moon Ritual. And then stats. And I just played the biggest characters at their card value as possible. Turns out vanilla cards are really important. Like the 1 cost 2/2 vanilla cards, or like the 2 cost 3/3 vanilla cards. Or I pulled the 2 cost steel violet par that's 3/2, but it's resist 1. Like kind of this feels the same as a 3/3 body, but the resist 1 is huge. Like those are really important. Stats matter in limited format, and that I think ultimately I had enough in each card slot where I was able to find success and go 2-1 at the end of the night.
Nice, nice. And again, it's a different beast, right? Depending on what sealed event you're playing. I know that we had a few episodes ago had talked to the Young family about their draft experience, and how they have how that changes how you draft, like how you build your deck, right? Because you're only choosing one card out of the pack rather than trying to build your deck from all the packs that you've opened. And so it's important to note, right? Different game modes, different formats cause for different deck building, which kind of leads us into we talked about what we're thinking about this upcoming set for Core Constructed. How are we building things? Are we simply getting a shell of a previous deck and then filling in some cracks and trying to find something new, or are we building from scratch? Mac, what is your preference? I'll lean into mine a little bit in a second, but I want to hear what your thoughts are, and if you've thought about any color combinations, if you're looking at any specific deck lists.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm actually, this is like the first set in a while where I'm like trying to cook. I
Ooh.
know I've alluded to myself, and me and Nathaniel and Ryan too. Let's be honest, all three of us, that's not you, are like the certified pickers. Like we take what's on Dreamborn, and we don't. Maybe Nathaniel does, but we don't like copy a 60 card list. Like we'll take a list, probably keep 50 to 55 of those, and then make the other, fill in the rest to get to 60. Make that our own, right? Like those tech cards. Um, but starting from like ground zero and starting with card one is not something that I am good at. However, this set, I'm like, rotation's a good thing for me, I think,
Yes.
because like the new flavor, right? Like get rid of Blurple, get rid of dogs, like where everyone's starting over. And I love it. That's why I'm so excited. I think this is what people wanted with Fabled. Like in Fabled, we only got 31 new cards, and it just felt like so dry. And now, although I still enjoyed Fable and will always enjoy playing Lorcana no matter what, but like I can now see the difference between the Fable release to Attack of the Vine, because instead of 31 new cards, we're getting 204 or however many there are new cards. So like we get 5 full sets to build brand new decks. And with that, to answer your question, I like to focus on like I've been really hyper focusing on these tag teams,
Mm.
because in my opinion, I think this was Ravensburger's goal. Like they want these cards to be the focus of decks moving forward, because I think they've listened to the community again very well, in the sense that the community wants like theme with their deck building, and the tag team provides this theme. Like if you like the way Genie and Aladdin looks, well, guess what? The purple and green cards that work with that tag team card tend to be Genie and Aladdin's, or something to do with, that movie franchise. So it's like, oh, this is working out well. Or like the Mickey and Minnie. Like if the Mickey and Minnie cards in blue and green, like aren't the cards that you want, well, there's still some like detective synergy in here. So like but the ones that I really caught my eye were the tag team Sully and Boo, the Amber Ruby. Ruby actually got a good card that's inkable this set in the Red Alert. So that is something that I am very intrigued on and trying to make work, as well as the tag team Tinkerbell and Peter Pan, the Ruby Amethyst builds. I want to build, my first two lists that I've been pondering are like a Supers build with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, as well as like trying to combine like what were previous iterations of the Boosty Boys with Webby's Diary, and combining that with the tag team Sully and Boo and how that looks. So those so far have been what I am most interested in, but it stems from the fact that like these tag team cards are so cool, and they make the theme decks, or are making the theme decks come out in a way that deck building hasn't really been introduced into the game before, or at least in my opinion. It's just a different style or more focused style of deck building, that instead of just smacking together really good cards that have no like synergistic value or franchise value with each other. What about you? In your deck building? Because I know you've done I think a little bit more than I have at this
Yeah,
point.
no, it's I've done some random playtesting, but before I get into that, the Red Alert card, is that 2319?
I think it is. At least the picture looks like the scene from 2319.
2319. I'm kind of bummed that they said Red Alert rather than 2319. It's kind of a fun moment from that movie. But either way, um, yeah, I've been doing some deck building, and again, it all started once, all of the cards were released. And then it's like, ooh, the creative juices start flowing. And what you like, as you mentioned with the tag teams being so cool, it just opens up a world of possibilities, because a lot of these cards say you could shift it on Aladdin, or you could shift it on Genie. And then for some cards, it says you can shift it on both, such as the Sully and Boo, because the more card, is it Sully and Boo that could do both? Because like as whoever cards or however many cards are underneath impact it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it's like the combo shifts or like, yeah, the combo
correct.
shift is where you can do one, the other, or both, I think is how it
And
works.
I think that's so cool because it opens up uh, different play lines where if your opponent inks plays Aladdin, you're like, okay, what other color are they playing? Are they playing purple? Like, do they have the genie shift? There's so many different ways to get to that card. Because sometimes if you only had your big shift Clarabelle and you didn't have any other way to get it out besides shifting, and you didn't have your shift target, it's kind of like, oh, that kind of stinks. But now it's allowing us to get to these bigger characters faster because you might have 12 shift targets rather than your 4 or your 8. And so it's super super fun. Again, the Ruby Amethyst evasive list is something I was curious about. I haven't done much there. I love the Ruby Amber um, boosty boys, as you say, with the Solian Boo. I think that's again fun. Haven't gone much there either, but the ones I've tested, I and for the record, when I say tested, I'm like 0 and 5 or 0 and 6, and I just want to play, see what it feels like. And, I'll crash 1,000 times before I get it right once, but that's because that's my process. Because if I realize after 2 or 3 games with a deck, it's like, oh, I burn out of cards by rounds like turn 6 or turn 7, and like I don't have enough card draw. It's like, okay, let's restructure it. Let's kind of build a new foundation. But I've been looking at Emerald Steel a little bit with the Rapunzel Flynn Rider combinations. And I have been looking at the blue green Mickey and Minnie combination because that is just so fun. Shift
I never
Zero,
thought of you being a discard player with Emerald Steel. What changed?
and that's the thing. It's a self discard,
True. So you're not being mean to your opponent.
right? And there are cards that I was like, oh, do I want to include this? Where it's like your opponent discards it. It's like I did run that in the beginning. Like when I first started playing Lorcana, I was like, oh, discard is like your opponent can't win if they don't have any cards. And then I played it once or twice. I was like, oh, this is mean. This is gross. Like I don't like this at all. And then Nathaniel took it and played it for like 2.5 years, right? No, but
Feels
overall,
like it.
right? It felt like it. Playtesting it every day. Goodness gracious. But no, I'm kidding, Nathaniel. I love you. But the blue green and emerald steel have been something I've been looking at. I've been really, really trying to make blue red work with the Bell Beast combination because it's kind of like a pseudo um, Mufasa card from the oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the set name. Shimmering, yeah, Shimmering Skies.
Shimmering Skies, yep.
Yep. And so
One
because
of the most beautiful Enchanteds ever to
oh,
exist, by the way.
so great, so great. And so looking at because again that one's cool because they're like the Bell shift target. That's a 2 drop. Allows you to shift on Bell for 1 less than what it's supposed to be, and like the Bell Beast combo is a 6, so you could get it on a 5 if you hit a 3, like a turn 3 Detective Mickey, which then if you quest, you can re-ready all of your ink. And I think that has a lot of potential. However, the card draw is going to be lacking. And there's going to be a couple different things you can do with the card draw. But again, I'm still working on that one. But right now, of course, with my history with blue green, or sapphire emerald, as we're supposed to be calling it, that's my most familiar. And so there's probably no surprise there that I'm more familiar with that and more successful with blue green. However, it is a different style of blue green. It's almost aggro in a weird way because you're turn 1 Minnie, turn 2 Mickey, and you shift immediately on the Minnie and Mickey combo. And if they want to take it out, great, they'll ramp you by 3. Otherwise, you're questing for 5 the next turn. And very rarely are they going to be able to take out a 5/5 on turn 2 or turn 3. And so it's pretty aggressive. And so I really like it. It's fun. Um, and then of course with the Amber Emerald toys, I want to make the Buzz Lightyear stuff work, but again, it seems just like a carbon copy of Dogs, and it's just a little. I don't know. I can't. There's a lot of strategy that goes into it. I haven't gotten to the point where I enjoy it. Personally, I'm not that good at it. I would like to be better at it, but so much card draw in that one. The toys list is fun.
I might be imagining this. Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. But this was opening weekend, and I don't know if it was spam or something, but online I saw a top 4 CCQ results for like opening weekend,
Oh,
and none of the top 4 was Amber Emerald,
Really?
which was very eye-opening and in a way uplifting,
Oh
because I
yeah.
think our group has been suspecting like just kind of just the rebirth or just a rebranding of what dogs was is going to be this toys Amber Emerald list. If those results are true, and please, listeners, if you want to just look it up, I swear I saw some CCQ results for opening weekend. But what I did see, interesting, Sapphire Steel, like the Darkwing Duck Detectives was one of the ones that made
That
the
is a
top four. Like,
fun list.
yep. And I think the Amber Ruby, there was an Amber Ruby. I can't recall what list it was. I don't know if it was Boost or Panda Songs, or I know there's a couple of different versions, right? But like the one thing that I have noticed, or it was seeing those results, it kind of was really like, yes, let's have like immediate flavor distribution. I want to see like at least half a dozen lists be viable,
Right?
just to have variety. Now, the one caveat that I will throw out there is that the strongest ink seems to be amber. So if you want to just play power, consider playing amber. Speaking of, oh yeah, one of them was Amber Amethyst, I believe. So Yurple, Nathaniel's
Fun.
beloved. So Amber is seemingly the one off of the gate. Like there are some good cards there, and so consider strategy around that if you just want to win. But there's still variety, or at least there's some initial variety out there that is intriguing for me. Ultimately, I think what people, as they're trying to figure out, like especially a rotation, is like where's the card draw? People just like to draw cards, and when it comes to like tips and strategies of deck building, I'd love to get your perspective on this because you're obviously way more unique on this. But like, I think every deck almost starts with whatever combination you have. It's like, where are you getting your source of cards, and how are you getting it? How reliable is it? And I will say, like, your Mickey and Minnie shift line, as amazing as that sounds, are those, or do you run the risk of like being like super 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 high rolly and reliant on that,
Yeah.
and then if it doesn't work you just fall flat on your face? Like, what's your backup plan? And the word that people throw out around is like conditional. Like, is it too conditional, or is it more consistent? Like, those are the things that I tend to look at, and the reason why I've been interested in the Ruby Amethyst and the Boosty Boys, so to speak, the Amber Ruby. Ruby's, I think, like my favorite color besides Sapphire, but I'm not playing Sapphire because Sapphire is like really bad. So sorry, Sapphire lovers. I'm there with you. I share your pain. But like, where's your consistent card draw? And in my case, it's Webby's Diary, or in Ruby Amethyst, it's kind of Dumbo and Peter Pan shenanigans, right? So, what are your thoughts when it comes to tips and strategies starting from ground zero, like in trying to figure out what you want your deck to do?
You're absolutely right. The card draw is quite important. It's not my first go-to immediately, which may be my own downfall. I tend to try and find some sort of synergy first, and then say like, okay, what other cards exist in this set, or this color combination that could help me? And again, that's where I might rely on some cards that aren't as popular, just because again, I try and build my synergies a little bit differently. But it is important. And blue green will struggle with some card draw. I think my strategy is just to slide 4 copies of Clarabelle Cow into my core constructed deck and hope they don't remember that it was rotated out. But no, I'm kidding. I do not cheat. I'm a man of integrity. But when it comes to card draw, there might be a couple different things we can do with blue green, but nowhere near as impactful as Clarabelle. I'll tell you what though, the one thing I have lost to most consistently has been Amber Ruby Boosty Boys. It's because if the game goes on long enough and you don't have the item answers, like they get card draw all the time. Card draw, card
It's
draw,
the
card draw,
control
card draw,
menace,
card draw,
at
card
least
draw.
right off the gate. It
And
is so
oh
crazy if they're
gosh.
able to get to their board wipes.
Yep, they get up to 9, 10 ink, and all of a sudden it's like, here's a location and Raging Storm. It's like, oh, that stinks. Okay, let's reload the board. And another location and Raging Storm. And we're like, oh, I'm like cooked. I'm, stick a fork in me, I'm done. Uh, and so that's the deck that I've been losing to most. And so I definitely think there's something to be said about, always starting with that draw engine, but not always being reliant on cards that say like draw this or draw that, because there are other ways like interacting with your discard or like having cards bounce back to you. Not as important now as it had been in previous rotations, but there are different methods of keeping your hand uh, equity, you know, or hand, size full. So I think that has to be, if not primary, a very high secondary choice of like this is what I need to do.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think you kind of ignited kind of a thought here. Each deck has its win condition, and what I've noticed in trying to build a deck is first and foremost like getting to that win condition and what's the best way and most efficient way of getting to that win condition. Sometimes it's drawing a million cards. Others times it's stalling as much as possible, maybe in the form of conditional removal or a board wipe, and as we've alluded to with like a Raging Storm. Or if it's just like slapping a bunch of characters down really, really fast and turning them sideways and just looking at your opponent and say, try and answer what I got. So I think first and foremost, like understanding ultimately what your deck wants to do. In my case with these ones, it's like, I'll use the Boosty Boys as an example. It's truly like stalling until you get to your 8 or 9 ink. If it'll be very helpful if you're able to establish a Webby's Diary along the way and you boost on the way up to 8 or 9 ink to draw cards to ultimately get your Raging Storm and then controlling. I think that's why I like it, is I like being the control player. I like the pain of seeing my opponent's Lorcana rise and I just stay at 0, and then ultimately just saying, nope, you're done now. Now I'm just going to go up. So that's kind of the way I like to play, as stressful as that can be. But like other decks just want to go crazy, slap them down, turn sideways. And within that goal, I personally like to have like 2, sometimes maybe 3 outs to get to that goal. So in my case, it's like either have some low-cost boostable characters with the Webby's Diary. That way you can board control with like a Scrooge McDuck or a Hercules, and then with a Webby's Diary, and you're consistently drawing cards that way. Or if you need to play a Grab Your Bow that to get to ultimately your big board wipe, or a Red Alert, for example. Some people still play the Little Sisu where you banish 1 strength or less character upon play, right? Like for me, it's like understanding the strategies. If you want to include, because I don't want to be hyper focused on just one strategy, because if that doesn't work, you just lose. So it's like I like to have 2 or 3 avenues to get to my ultimate win condition, and typically that's how I play and how I build my deck and how I want my deck to look. That's not to say what everyone does. So how do you like to build when it comes to your win condition?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, there's multiple different ways to do this. A method that I've been going with recently, and it's something I've always thought about, but not necessarily been able to articulate how it's been operating. But Ryan had mentioned this the other day about like a certain package, right? And like if I were to be doing the old blue green pre-rotation, like the Prince Philip package, that together is 12 cards, right? You have your 4 little prince, your 4 big prince, and your 4 malicious, mean, and scary. And so I'm trying to think of what synergies I'm looking for and what packages or what like overall groups do I need to include? Because if you're trying to do too many things, like, oh, I want evasives, but then I also want big bodies, but then I also I want to shift. And it's like, okay, you might have the most efficient way to use that package is like, oh, here's 24 cards here, and here's 32 cards here, and then here's 15 cards here. And it's, oh, I have 85 cards in my deck. Like, very cool. So you have to really start recognizing, one, what kind of playstyle do you enjoy, i.e., Mac with control, and i.e., Nathaniel and Ryan with winning. And so,
So true, though.
and so you identify that playstyle, right? And you want to play to your strengths. I like I mentioned, I'm not very good at playing dogs or toys, the limit, like the short, low to the ground playing because again, I haven't developed that skill, but I also haven't been willing to let go of the control. I'm kind of similar to Mac. I like that mid to late game shift in dynamic where it's like, yep, you do your thing, and now I'm going to determine how we play this game. And for me, that includes controlling what they can interact with. So, like your warded characters and bouncing characters. I love a good character that'll be like, oh, you wanted that to be established and dry for your next turn? I'm so sorry, but put it back into your hand. And so I think there's multiple different things that you have to recognize. But first, it's what do I like to do? What's my play style? Are there known package deals? Like if I'm going to do shift webby, right? You need the four little ones and the four big ones. That's 8 cards. Now you're looking at what's the remaining 52 cards in my deck. It's like, okay, if I'm doing a green blue deck, I'll probably need some ramp. Okay, well, ramp is kind of limited to a couple different cards, but you have your four, your Detective Mickey's, maybe some one jump ahead, probably not. And then you're looking at maybe your Kristoff, right? The Kristoff Whisper, that the 3-drop quest. If there's a card underneath, you can, you know, ink the top card of your deck. And so there's different packages, right? Because then you're like, oh, I'm going to need 4 Kristoffs, and or if you have a shift line, a shift target, you're going to need like the Red Panda deck, right? There's going to be multiple copies of the Red Panda, multiple copies of the lower shift, multiple songs. Because if you're doing Steel Song, like I haven't looked at too many lists, so don't quote me on this thing, but if you're looking at Steel Song, there is like a very strong package of like, oh, there's 4 strength of Raging Fire, there's 4 along, or not, he hurled his Thunderbolt, not along came Zeus. And then you have you might have like,
Akud.
yep, you have 4 Akud, and then it's like, well, I got to handle some evasive too, so I probably have like some, headless or Horseman Strikes. It's like those right away. It's like, oh, I'm going to do Steel Song. There's 20 cards that you're most likely always going to be including, unless you're trying to run something that's very unique that'll catch the person off guard. So again, for me personally, it is, what do I want to play? What style do I like? What kind of synergies and packages do I want to play with? And don't overcomplicate it. Maybe like you could have multiple different win conditions, like, oh, I need to stall and boost in card draw. Great, that's it. But if you try and make it, oh, stall, boost, card draw, I also want to shift, maybe have some songs in there and maybe have some actions too. It's going to be harder to find that win condition. So for me, it's just, like I mentioned, what I like to do, synergies, the packages, and keeping it simple. Then, once you get more comfortable with that play style and that ink combination, you can start tossing in some one ofs or two ofs and get that spice going in there. And so, again, nothing's more satisfying than an opponent saying, "What does that card do?" Or like, "What set is that from?" Or like, not forgetting something exists altogether. And so, again, if you're a certified picker, that's fine too, as well. There's significantly more people out there who are way better at deck building and playing and more experienced. And if you're like, you know what, I don't have a lot of time to put into this, I just want to know what's good, and you can go to Dreamborn and look at popular decks or trending decks, and then you can tweak it if you want. But ultimately, I really think it's just find what makes you happy. And if winning is what it is, then great. There's definitely a lot of ways to find the best decks in the format. But if it's control, yeah, you can definitely find what you're looking for.
I had never heard about that like package analogy that you and Ryan had talked about, and that like actually strikes a chord with me. So like I'm gonna utilize that strategy in my own personal deck building, knowing like what things stick together. But then to your point, like almost not overly diluting your deck, because when you do that, then you kind of lose your core identity
Yep.
of what your win condition is. To your point, so like understanding what maybe 3 or 4 packages, so to speak, fit together, and then the last 1 to 5 cards, that's where you're able to throw in the spice to catch your opponent off guard and kind of tech, as the way that as the term is known as, to like surprise people.
Yep.
And maybe for a matchup that you aren't traditionally as good as, maybe those last 5 cards, you can tweak it in a way where maybe you can give you an advantage to that specific matchup, and you can edge them out on a, where, as opposed to a a regular matchup where you might have a disadvantage. So I like that. I'm going to use that for myself. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
I learned something in this podcast, in this episode. But sure enough, we're almost at an hour and a half, and it's only two of us, but we're not. Are we really surprised? Because this is what we do every Monday/Tuesday night when it comes to recording night. We catch up on all things Lorcana, and we like to just blabber on. So with that, I'm going to put a wrap on this show. Thank you so much for joining, Konnor. Thank you so much, audience, for listening to this week's episode. Last thing before close, reminder, the anniversary event at the Game Center, August 22nd and 23rd. Again, that's at the Game Center in Roseville, Minnesota. All of those are up on PlayHub, those being the events that are ongoing for that. So please, if you're traveling a little bit, plenty of restaurants and hotels in the area where you're able to stay. This was a very, 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 very fun event last year. I know I'm going to at least one day. I'm trying to get to both days. I want to be as heavily involved as I can and help out. So the DuckTale Dads will always support the Minnesota community, especially with an event like this. So we are excited to be a part of it. And as more details come out, we will be sure to share it. With that being said, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the audio and video version on YouTube. We post on Instagram, on our Instagram account from time to time. So please check us out there for additional content. Thank you again so much for listening. We are so excited for Attack of the Vine and can't wait to talk more about it in upcoming episodes. But until then, let's get the duck out of here.